Good afternoon. My name is Charlene Bishram. I am here today to present my midterm for CIS. So first I want to say that my midterm is revolved around fertility rates around the world. I got my data from the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs Population and Fertility Division. The title of my data is Age-Specific Fertility Rates and Total Fertility. The data itself provides us with total fertility and mean age of childbearing for every country in the world. The data actually segments childbirth within different age ranges. So the way that I used my data is I first got it from the UN website, and then I had to format the columns in order to put it into Power Pivot, because Power Pivot will only allow you to format data if the columns are headed correctly. So first of all, I want to show you where my data is. So if we go to Power Pivot and then to Manage, my data is here. It is very neatly organized. I want to also say that I hid two columns in my data so that my analysis would be free of clutter. So the columns that I hid are period and period 1. These columns are actually not needed for my analysis, so it actually helps us when we view it because it doesn't look so cluttered. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. So let's start at the dashboard page. As you can see, I have 3 different graphs here and 2 slicers. The first chart is titled Number of Childbirths by age 15 to 34. The second chart is titled Number of Childbirths by age 35 to 49. I put these in display because I wanted to show what the total childbirths were for the entire world by age segments. The data actually goes from 1960 to 2011. I wanted to show with the third diagram, which is this one over here, that irrespective of what country you come from, birth rates do decrease as a woman gets older, regardless of year and country. For instance, if we look at Argentina, so we click on Argentina, and we want to look at Argentina across a few different years. So I'm going to select 1970, 1985, 1995, and 2005. So what I wanted to see here is, does my age range change? And what are actually the number of births? And as we can see, from 1970 to 2005, the age range for average childbirth is actually around 28. So we have it up here as 28. In 1985, it was 27.6, but it actually is very, very constant across the board. So as we change our slicers, the number of childbirths by age actually also shows. So as we can see in this diagram, the highest age for childbirth is between the ages of 25 and 29, and the lowest is between 45 and 49. So this actually confirms what we think as a society, regardless of country, that age range birth rates go down as women get older. So this can actually be used to play around with, so you can change the different countries. And as we can see, if we go through this, it's very similar. Like if you look at the Bahamas, the age range average is 28. If you look at Bangladesh, the age range is actually a little bit lower, which is quite interesting. So this is how we can use this to really understand the data. The second tab, Established versus Emerging Markets, my goal here was to put a pivot table together to show a snapshot of what the world is like. So in my pivot table, it displays the minimum and maximum age of childbearing in 3 developed, 3 emerging, and 3 underdeveloped markets. And the reason why I chose these particular countries is because I really wanted to get an idea of, around the world, a really good cross-section of the age range. And what we can see here, if we look at the trend line that's here, that in actuality, across the world, irrespective of economic standards, the minimum and maximum age of childbearing is actually not that different. It's pretty consistent. As a society, we're taught that if you come from a lower economic country, or if you come from a country that is not as well off as, say, as the United States, then people tend to have children at a much younger age. As we can see here, the numbers actually prove that to not be true. In my third chart, I am displaying the sum of total fertility around the world from the year of 1960 to 2011. I first want to explain that total fertility in this chart is the mean number of children a woman would have by age 50 if she survived by age 50 and were subject throughout her life to the age-specific fertility rates observed in a given year. The total fertility is expressed as a number of children per woman. I think that's a really important definition in order to understand. So the pivot table in this tab, I found the data to be very interesting because for certain years that we see, there are some peaks. For instance, here in 1970, here in 1985, here in 1995, and here in 2005. The limitations of the data is in order to understand the reason behind the data, you would have to go to other sources and look up the cause of the increase in fertility. So although we do have this data here, and this chart does do a very good job of explaining and showing us the different peaks of the highest fertility across the world, we would still need more information in order to really understand. In conclusion, I was able to manipulate the data to show the different fertility rates among the world. However, to add more color, research would have to be done to understand why peaks and changes have happened.